For some reason, my microphone's not working. I gotta get a new one. That kind of sucks. Oh well. What is going on today, guys? Too Strong for You here, and it's been a while since I put up a video, and that's not for a lack of trying. I know I really wanted to get back into YouTube, but now I feel that I have I have the time to be able to do it. I now legit feel that I might have the means to be able to continue this as not full-time, but more consistently. I know that I really have all these ideas that I always talk about, but that's one thing that I really want to improve on, especially the next year coming up. So for that matter, I do have a video planned for this month, just because the holiday season's coming up, Christmas time is here. I always try to do a holiday video or Christmas video regardless of my upload schedule. And I do, and because, you know, just during this time I get in the video game mood, I really get into like remembering my childhood during the holiday season when Christmas comes around. Final Fantasy, RPGs in general, The Legend of Zelda, that is like when the weather starts getting cooler, you can tell that it's starting to get that time of the year. That's when my memories start kicking in. When I played The Legend of Zelda, I was getting into Final Fantasy and RPGs, all that kind of childhood stuff. But today, I want to talk about something that in general has deep meaning to me, a very special place in my heart, and that is a remake of Chrono Cross. There's rumors going around that a remake of one of my favorite games, if not my favorite game of all time, there's going to be a remake. And today I want to discuss some things that I would like to see from the remake. I want to discuss some things that hopefully we're going to see. If this rumors are true, potential sequels, potential everything, and I just love that if this is true, that Squaresoft, at the time Square Enix, is showing love to its lesser known titles. I really want to see more big stuff, especially since the PS5 just came out, and you know, people are trying to get their hands on it, and you know, what better opportunity for when a new console just came out to advertise, you know, hey, remember that old game you really used to like playing when you were younger? Well, we're gonna remake it. And so I want to go over some things that I hope to see in the Chrono Cross remake, and yeah. So I guess the first thing that I do want to talk about is the most important part to me, especially, which you know, I don't know if I've talked about this before in my older videos, but I listened to the music to Chrono Cross first before I even knew what the game was. It was a junior high or ninth grade winter. Well, yeah. So it's perfect for the time of the year. But it was during the winter time. I remember just browsing YouTube in its very early days, listening to video game soundtracks, because I really wanted to make my own music, and being able to have access to video game soundtracks, which broadened my taste in video games as a whole, because I do have a background in music. I listened to the soundtrack for Chrono Cross, Time's Scar, Star Stealing Girl, all these soundtracks, these songs composed by the genius himself, Yasunori Mitsuda, also the composer for Xenoblade Chronicles. He also came back and did things for Smash Brothers. So for a remake to happen, and a remaster or a arrangement or a recomposition of the original music by Yasunori Mitsuda himself, would be a dream come true. I mean, Star Stealing Girl is just a classic lullaby type of song. Radical Dreamers is the classic, just it represents Chrono Cross. And then Arnie Village, probably one of my favorite, probably my top 3 favorite soundtracks or songs in the soundtrack, is the Arnie Village, the very first place that your character Surge, his home village, the very first place that you get to explore. And you know, just, I know this goes without saying, music really does make a video game. You can have atmosphere, you can have visuals, great voice acting, great gameplay, but what really drives a scene home, what really drives the atmosphere and draws it all together, is the music and the soundtrack of a video game. When you think of Super Mario Brothers, the first thing a lot of you might come to mind is the that soundtrack is iconic, and it goes hand in hand with level 1-1 of Super Mario Brothers. Or Pokemon. Just the soundtrack alone really can transport you to another place in time, which I don't want to spoil anything for newcomers, but you know, it pretty much fits with the theme of Chrono Cross. So I that's one thing that I'm really excited for. I do hope that they bring Yasunori Mitsuda, if not to compose or rearrange the entire soundtrack, but to have input into a lot of it. The same way they consulted him for the Smash Brothers remakes or the Smash Brothers remasters and rearrangements that Yasunori Mitsuda did come back to do. But yeah, that's one thing that I'm probably the most hyped for, is the music, and because it just has a special place in my heart, especially being one of my favorite soundtracks of all time. I guess the next thing I do want to talk about is how are they going to implement Chrono Cross is 2 discs. Final Fantasy VII was 3 discs. That what they did with Final Fantasy VII Remake, making it episodic, which, you know, a lot of us thought it was going to be a bad thing. I don't mind that episode 1, you know, they're not calling it episode 1, but when I did my Final Fantasy VII tiers, woo, that was like 5 years ago, I mentioned how it was going to be an episodic type of thing, which it makes sense now what Square Enix did. It's not really like episode 1, a 30-minute game, an hour game, a 2-hour game. It's a 40-hour game just taking place in Midgard, and what they're doing is splitting it up. Everything that takes place in Midgard really is iconic and should be in itself a standalone. It could be a standalone game. They expanded everything. They expanded the lore, the realms, the topography, the wildlife, the lifestyle, the slums below the plate in Final Fantasy VII, the characters. Biggs and Wedge and Jesse, like, they really expanded on that, and that's something that I do want to see with the Chrono Cross remake. And if they do decide to make it episodic, who cares? Final Fantasy VII Remake is not the first time that Square Enix has divided a game into story into different episodes, I guess. Final Fantasy X, Final Fantasy X-2, Final Fantasy 13-2, Lightning Returns. They've done it before, so it's not really surprising for me to see, oh, there's going to be Chrono Cross Remake Episode 1 and then Chrono Cross Remake Episode 2. There's 2 discs, so I can definitely see there being a split up. People are going to buy the game, and I bought Final Fantasy VII Remake and I loved it, and I wanted more because they did such a good job. And they know people are going to buy the sequel, or not even the sequel, but the next half of the game. Kind of like how they did with Golden Sun. Golden Sun for the Game Boy Advance was not Golden Sun 1, Golden Sun 2. It was a single game but split into 2 different perspectives, which is something I think they could do too, because there's a lot of characters. There's 45 playable characters in Chrono Cross. Oh my gosh, I just realized, and for them to go into depth, I just blew my own mind. For them to go into depth with the character development on Chrono Cross would be a massive undertaking. But if there's anybody that can do it, and anybody that can do it justice, it would be Square Enix themselves. I definitely think that it's something that my mind is just running a million miles an hour now. And so if I'm cutting my own self off and not making sense, it's because all these ideas are popping into my head. Now, there is a couple points where I think might fit a pretty good part 1, part 2, part 3 if they make Chrono Cross, or if they split it into different games, or into different chapters. Either after the first time you meet Kid, which that in itself is a pretty good adventure, a pretty good solidification of introducing the player of the mechanics, how the game plays, the story, just the feel. And on top of that, I feel they're able to expand it even more. Talk to some of the villagers in Arnie just to see if there's any quests. Go out on any missions into the reefs and the beaches, and being able to explore the jungles would be something super cool. And then, you know, you meet Kid, you get to the peak or the tombstone, the cliff where you're able to see. That's the time split, right? Or not the time split, but the dimension rift, right? So that would be a good place to kind of like cut the game. Another place would be after completing the Viper Manor, because you have a couple characters already to join your party, which I think would be the more ideal section. You've already gone through 3 different maps. You've got Arnie Village, you've got the first kind of dungeon area, and then you've got Termina, you got Termina, the port kind of area, and Termina in itself, there's a lot going on. You don't get to do a lot of it on disc 1, but once you get to like the second half of the game, it opens up. That's where you get your ultimate weapon. You start crafting the final. It's awesome, and then you get to go to Viper Manor, which allows you to explore just this like intricate regal military mansion, which could be a good stopping point. Or the Fossil Valley. Those kind of areas would be good, where it'd be, okay, part 1 ends, stay tuned for part 2. They'll be able to expand a lot on the story and the inhabitants, and just really solidify new players into the world. And returning players can really get engrossed even more for their return back to the El Nido archipelago. Finally, I just want to mention that this is a lot of potential or a lot of potential to open a door for a remake of Chrono Trigger. This game has a lot of nostalgia for me. I absolutely love Chrono Trigger. There's just so much replayability for it. A bunch of different characters, a lot of story and heart. The music is iconic. Yasunori Mitsuda again. For them to remake Chrono Cross really opens the door to have Square Enix do remakes for a lot of games. Chrono Trigger, Xenosaga, I mean, they've already done the Xenoblade games. The Xenosaga and the Xenogears really need updates and remakes because there's no other way to play those games. Xenosaga Episode 1, 2, and 3, you're gonna spend a pretty penny trying to play those games unless you've got emulation. Xenogears is about $120 game. It really jumped up in price since the last time I was able to pick it up. Being able to go back and remake these games and making them more accessible to people who don't have a Super Nintendo, who don't have a Nintendo DS. I mean, these consoles are 20 plus years old. People who don't have a Nintendo DS, even Chrono Trigger on the Nintendo DS is like an $80 game. It's not very accessible, so remaking Chrono Cross really opens the door for Square to be able to do good things and bring back like unknown titles, which would really like make the old school gamer in me really happy. A lot of new fans, introduce all these old classic games back into the mainstream. And we have the PS5 and the Xbox. I don't even remember what it was called. I don't even know what the Xbox is called. But the new Xbox, introducing these to a wider audience to give them more love. But yeah, so being able to dream about what a potential Chrono Cross remake could be has been really fun. Thanks for watching and sticking with me for all these years. I do have a Christmas holiday video that I would want to put up before Christmas. Maybe 1 or 2 more videos. I do have a lot of just the season really gets me in the mood to play video games and want to talk about it. So if I do more videos like this where I just ramble on about some of my favorite video games, expect that, because it's just an easier format. It allows me to just edit the video, put some music, here's some gameplay, that's it. But for me to take some time, write a script. Now that I have a lot more responsibilities, job where I am Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, 8 to 5. It's a more stable process where on my weekends I want to be able to relax, spend time with my girlfriend, hang out with my family. But this, when I have time to be able to just sit down and talk to the camera, ramble about video games, it's probably an easier format for me to do. And yeah, I have fun doing them and just talking about video games, just to get all these like ideas about video games and thoughts just onto my channel, which would be something for me to do and something good for me as well. So yeah, until next time, let's enjoy this Christmas season. Let's really get into the spirit. Let's do some gift giving, and until next time, hopefully soon, maybe within the next week and a half, hopefully good things happen in my channel. So until then, I'll see you guys later.